If your favorite scrunchie looks more like a limp noodle than a hair accessory, don't toss it. Today on Mend It Mondays, we're saving this satin beauty from the clothing crime bin. Hello, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Ashley, or Ash J Styles, and today we are back for episode 2 of the Mend It Mondays bin. This scrunchie is a quick win, but there's a trick to closing it so that the seam is invisible. Let's get into it. You'll need basic tools. Here I have a seam ripper, a safety pin, a hand sewing needle, thread that matches my scrunchie color. I have my snips. I have my sewing machine off to the side, but the trick here is using a 1/4 inch braided elastic. As long as we reinforce it correctly, it holds the scrunch much longer than the clear stuff. Now, you see here, most scrunchies finish off with a machine stitch that you can see on the outside. You can get away without this really being noticed, but if you stick to the end, I'll show you how a little bit of extra effort can make for a cleaner and more professional finish. To start this off, we're going to stitch rip this stitching line. If your scrunchie does not have this visible stitching line, you can find any spot on the seam line and stitch rip directly on the seam. We only need to stitch rip about 1 inch. Just be careful not to slice into your fabric and only rip the actual stitches. Since my example has the visible top stitching, I'm going to unpick all of those stitches out. Now with that opening, we can access the elastic that's inside and pull it out. On my example, it does look like they used a 1/4 inch braided elastic. I'm assuming it most likely snapped due to not being reinforced properly. I'm going to reuse this elastic because it seems to be of decent quality and it has good recovery. You can determine if the same applies to yours or if you would need to cut out a new piece of elastic. Right now, I'm just trimming away the frayed ends to prevent the elastic from unraveling and ensure the internal structure remains secure over time. Now, for your elastic length, it really depends on the thickness of your hair, how much hair you have, and essentially what you prefer when tying up your hair. To give you a guideline, typically the elastic length is between 6 and 8 inches. What I like to do is safety pin the ends together, overlapping by about 1/2 inch, and fit it comfortably to my wrist, since that's where my scrunchie rests majority of the time. You could also take a hair tie that you already have and that you know fits comfortably on your hair, and then match your elastic length to that. Just be sure to add an extra inch of length to that measurement because we need to overlap the ends when we put it together. Now that we have determined our elastic length, we'll grab our safety pin and just secure it through one of the ends of our elastic. We're going to use the safety pin as a guide for us to feel through our scrunchie fabric as we feed it through the tunnel. So first, we'll insert the safety pinned end into the opening of the scrunchie shell. Be sure to pin the tail end of the elastic to the start of the tunnel, or you could hold it tight like I am so you don't accidentally pull the entire piece of elastic inside and have to start over. Now think of the motion as an inchworm through the tunnel. We're going to use our fingers outside the fabric to feel for the safety pin and push it forward into the tube as far as it will go, causing the fabric to bunch up behind it. To do this, we have to hold and pull. Hold the safety pin firmly through the fabric with one hand to keep it in place, and then with your other hand, pull the bunched up fabric back over the elastic and toward the entrance of the tube. Just continue this scrunch and pull motion until the safety pin pokes through from the other end. Pull it through to the outside and secure both ends together with the safety pin so that we don't lose them inside the tunnel. Now, before moving on to the next step, we're going to make sure that the elastic is not twisted inside of the scrunchie shell. We'll simply use our fingers to feel the elastic throughout the scrunchie and move the gathers toward the side that we already checked. Now that we know the entire elastic is laying flat with no twists, we can overlap the ends of the elastic onto each other by 1/2 inch and secure them together with the safety pin. All right, let's take this over to the machine. Here at the machine, we are going to stitch over our overlap. Leaving the safety pin in, we're going to raise our presser foot and place the elastic underneath right at the midpoint of the overlap. then lower our presser foot on top of it. Using our hand wheel, we're going to lower the needle into the elastic to hold it in place. We can now raise our presser foot again to remove the safety pin so that we don't risk breaking our needle by sewing over it. We can now sew a row of stitching at this midpoint of the overlap. Be sure to go back and forth about 3 to 4 times using the reverse button on the machine. This will reinforce the stitching line and ensure a strong hold as the scrunchie is being stretched with use. Now, we need to sew another row of stitching right beside our first row. That way the tension is distributed more evenly when it's being stretched and not placed on this one pain point within the scrunchie. We are essentially reinforcing the area. You can sew this second row about 1/8 of an inch away from your first row. Even though they'll be hidden, I like to tidy up all the loose threads with my snips. Now we can tuck the elastic into the scrunchie tunnel by readjusting and distributing our gathers evenly around the elastic. As you see, we're left with this opening that we need to close up. You can machine stitch this closed with a top stitch, but as promised, I'm going to show you how to give this a more flattering finish. Alright, next, prepare your hand sewing needle and matching thread, ensuring there's a secure knot at the end. We're going to start off by poking our needle through the underside or from the inside of the scrunchie right on that seam line, that folded edge that you see, so that our knot is on the inside of the scrunchie. We'll start where the beginning of our opening is. Now that we have fed that through, we can begin with our ladder stitch. We must now feed the needle from the outside into the scrunchie again, right on that seam line, but now on the opposite side from where we started. And we'll come back up through the seam line about 1/8 of an inch in distance and pull our thread through. And we'll pull our thread taut, but not tight. Now we'll repeat the same, but on the other side. So through the seam line, up again about 1/8 of an inch in distance, and pull through taut. This method ensures that our stitches do not show on the outside. We'll repeat this going from one side to the other and closing the scrunchie up all the way. Now that we're at the end, we can loop our thread around the needle 2 times and pull the needle through to create a knot at the end. Just hold it at the base to control where the knot secures. Lastly, insert your needle into one of the gaps along the seam line of the scrunchie and then push it up through the fabric at the seam line from the inside. This will hide our knot on the inside. Now we'll clip away our thread and that's it. Look at that recovery. It feels brand new. We saved probably $12 and we kept this out of the landfill, so win-win. Win. One crime down, a whole pile to go. Check out this playlist for more Mend It Monday saves. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.